Hey guys, it's Coach Goodrich here with another 6th grade Heritage Studies, Ancient Civ, and Cultural Geography video for you guys. This is going to be used in tandem with my Unit 4 notes. This is actually going to be the third video in this series, but it's going to be the first of part 2, which is Ancient Greece, which is the second one in our chapter. We just did Persia in 2 videos, and we're going to do Greece, and this is going to be the first video of 2 in that series. Make sure you got your notes out and you're ready to go. Here we go. Early civilizations. There are 2 of them, the 2 main ones. The Minoans are going to live on the island of Crete from about 2000 to 1400 BC. Capital city is going to be Knossos, known throughout the region as being very wealthy and articulate, and all of a sudden they disappeared, ended suddenly for unknown reason. Could have been war, could have been flood, could have been earthquakes, famine, drought. We don't really know. We just know that all records of them kind of stops from that time period. And then you have the Mycenaeans. They lived in the mainland Greece, so not on the coast like the Minoans did, from 1500 to 1200 BC. They were warlike people. Their capital city was Mycenae. They're rumored to have started the Trojan War of myth and fable. They were eventually conquered and destroyed by invaders from the north, which would lead to the Dark Age of Greece. So we can tell the Minoans were very wealthy because they had access to colors like this, as you see from what is left over from this building right here. Reds and blues, especially in that color, were expensive, very difficult to make, difficult to come by, and expensive to make. And then your Mycenaeans. During the Dark Age of Greece, the cities, instead of being super allegiant to the idea of a unified Greece itself, instead of believing in a strong national federal government, each city is going to govern itself in a series of city-states. This is usually going to be done in the form of a monarchy, so with a king in charge. The 2 most famous Greek city-states in history are traditionally seen as Athens and Sparta. They are actually going to have the form of an oligarchy. An oligarchy means rule by the few. So you're going to have a few elite nobles, generals, in kind of governor type people in charge, and they're going to debate against each other to determine how best to rule. So some of the big ones here, this is when we're talking about ancient Greece, this is what we're talking about. We're going to focus most of our discussion on the city of Athens and the city of Sparta. So Athens started off as, like many kingdoms do, as a monarchy. This is where we get the word tyranny from. Tyrants or rulers with absolute authority. They overthrew those tyrants, overthrew the oligarchy that came shortly after that, and then became a democracy, one of the first democracies, large-scale democracies in world history. They formed a group called the Assembly, which is a group of citizens of 18 years old and up males who met together to meet and to create and discuss laws and vote on laws. By 500 BC, Athens became a democracy. Democracy comes from the word rule by the people. This was the first government to allow the people to have a say in everything that happened in the nation. They were a direct democracy, which means all of these citizens, as they were called, voted on every single issue that popped up, which is a little bit different than what we do in the United States today as a representative democracy, where we elect certain people to make those decisions for us. But it's a big step in terms of guaranteeing more equal rights for all the people, not just the powerful. So, and this is what one of the hills that's overlooking the city of Athens today. You can kind of see the modern city behind it, but you got Athena's temple here, known as the Pantheon. Known as the Parthenon. Pantheon's in Rome. The Parthenon here. And then you have Poseidon's smaller temple right there off to the side. And you have a construction of a temple that's actually now used as a concert hall and amphitheater right there. Sparta, instead of focusing on the governmental side of things, they kept oligarchy, and they just focused on mainly having the best army in the world. The boys were taken from their families at the age of 7, and everything they did was to make them ready for battle. They're trained to fight, to endure pain, to steal food, to survive, and to not get caught. By 20, they could marry, but they still had to live at the barracks and train for at least another 10 years. So this is where we get the ideas of the Spartan soldiers being so good from the 300 movies and things like that throughout history. And this is what modern day Sparta looks like. You see the ruins on the front and the modern city in the back. Compare and contrast women and their roles in Athens and Sparta. Athens, upper class lived sheltered lives. They went to festivals, plays, and parties. The lower class would work in the home, cooking, cleaning, weaving, spinning thread. In Sparta, they also worked in the home, but they did many other jobs because the men were not around to do them. They're off training or off fighting. They each received physical training to teach them to be strong and brave and ready to fight to defend their homeland while their husbands were out fighting. So they were a little bit more equal here, even for our understanding of the time. And we'll be watching that video here soon. On to the Peloponnesian War, how it began. In order to prevent another invasion like the Persian War from happening, Athens joined together with several other powerful city-states to form what was called the Delian League. All the cities contributed funds, soldiers, weapons, and ships to the cause in order to keep outsiders from taking them over again or attempting to take over. Sparta was reluctant to join the league because they were afraid that Athens, who kind of organized everything, was becoming too powerful. And this would lead into conflict. 431, Athens and Sparta go to war, most of it fought at the Peloponnesian Peninsula, which is at the very bottom of Greece. So down over here. You see, the Blue League are going to be where the Delian League had control, compared to the gray, which would be the foreign states, and the pink is where the revolts and major fighting took place. The siege of Athens. Sparta surrounded Athens, attempting to starve the city out. However, a plague broke out in Athens, and the Spartans, instead of staying there and potentially contracting the disease, and decided to leave. This would lead its way into what the time period known as a truce. After years of fighting, Sparta and Athens agreed not to fight for a time, kind of ended in a draw or a tie. See if they could handle the situation more diplomatically. However, Athens officially broke the truce when they invaded Sicily, who had joined with Sparta and with their old Persian nemesis in order to defeat Athens as a joint attack in 404 BC. The consequences of the war: Sparta would control Greece for the next 30 years, but neither side ever really recovered from the war in terms of manpower or in terms of the gold and resources spent in order to wage this conflict. All right, getting on to the last little section that we got today. Religion and myth in Greece. This is always the most interesting thing that we get to talk about with this because the gods are so crazy. Very polytheistic. If you don't know that, you need to watch Hercules. Gods lived on Mount Olympus, which is the highest mountain in Greece, so high up that most of the year you have clouds at the top so you can't really see what's going on. But there was their idea of the gods' home, kind of like heaven. They were immortal. I mean, they lived forever, but they had very human characteristics, personalities, and flaws. They could get angry. They could get jealous. They would fight. They would be very petty. So usually these ended up with them just messing with humans a lot. The myth stories of how the gods affected the world, most often the natural world, in order to create the things that we know, whether it be the constellations or rivers or different mountains. This is what Mount Olympus looks like from the ground, and this is what it looks like from the air. So major gods and goddesses. This is definitely not a conclusive list. We have some readings that we're going to do regarding this. It's going to take us a little bit deeper, but here are the basics. A lot of these are the head of the gods, the ones that are going to live on Mount Olympus itself. Number 1, Zeus. He is the god of thunder, and he's the king. Number 2, Hera is his queen. You have Poseidon, who is the god of the seas. Hades, who's the god of the underworld. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are all brothers. Hestia is the goddess of the hearth and home. Demeter is the god of the harvest. Apollo does a lot of different things. A sun god, god of music, god of poetry. Artemis is Apollo's sister, and she's the god of the moon, naturally. Sun and moon kind of go together. And of hunting. Athena is the goddess of wisdom. Ares is the god of war. Aphrodite is the god of love. goddess of love. Hephaestus is the god of forging and blacksmithing, and Hermes is the messenger and science god. All of these gods are going to end up kind of popping back up in the Roman religion, where they're just going to be copied and have the names changed or more, make them more Latinized or more Romanized. But they get their start in Greece. So the ones that you will need to know for the test, you got Zeus. You got Zeus here with his thunderbolt. Hades. Hades is pictured with his three-headed dog Cerberus, who guards the gates of Hades. Poseidon with his trident. Athena with her spear, and the owl posted here, the symbol of wisdom. Apollo, music god, with his golden harp, and then Hermes with his wings for flying and messaging things back and forth. And this is actually where we're going to stop for the day, and we'll pick back up with this very soon. No mini quiz today, obviously, because we're not reaching the end of the unit, but I look forward to hearing from you guys, and we'll talk to you guys soon.